Today we're going to be talking about one of the core gaslights, what I'd consider one of the core gaslights of 12-step, or specifically Alcoholics Anonymous, which is spiritual but not religious. We've probably all heard this. This is one of the key initial indoctrination slogans: spiritual but not religious. So we wanted to unpack that today. And yeah.
And away we go. Well, Chris and I, before we hit live, we were talking about how I grew up in Catholic church. You know, like I was an altar girl at my church. My mom was a CCD teacher. Like everyone knew my mom from being the CCD teacher. So when I found 12-step, it was like, oh, like I've been hearing about the God thing the whole time. And it was like, oh, a God of my understanding. Well, I can do this because like the punishing Catholic God really wasn't doing it for me. But then once I heard I could choose my own understanding, I was like, okay, like, and it was just like more confirmation that this is the way, because it was like I've been hearing about this since I was in a baby carrier, you know. So it's interesting, like people who have no religious experience, and then still it's like we still end up in the same places doing the same thing, you know.
Yeah. I had to do a little research because I did not grow up with religion, so I have nothing to compare it to, other than I knew it was religion before I got there because it's all about God. Like, please, how is it not all about God? Like, what kind of crazy pills are you taking to think AA is not all about God? It's literally the point of the steps is to have access to a higher power of your understanding, or a doorknob, or God, or whatever. So, and the point of the steps is to have the higher power, the spiritual experience, the religious experience that will then therefore give you the personality change sufficient to keep you sober. Like, that's all in air quotes, right? Because that's just Bill's idea. AA is not all about God. Uh-oh, did you open it in another window? I hear an echo.
Yeah, I just opened to make sure it was on Facebook. Sorry.
Okay, cool. So I want to read you why AA might, some of my thoughts on why AA might do the spiritual but not religious thing. And then I want to open it up for a couple of comments too. And then I want to get into what religion is, define it, and some of the core tenets that are inside AA that are religious. I had to look into it and think about it because I didn't grow up. I don't have a reference to be like, oh, we did this in church when I was a kid. I'm like, I don't have that. So how spiritual, not religious functions as recruitment language inside Alcoholics Anonymous. It's like marketing tactic, right? The slogans are thought stopping. So if you get there and you have the objection, because remember, we're being sold on Bill's religion, right? That's how I like to think about it. It's like Bill literally was a salesman, but he was selling us on his ideas, not facts, not science. Like, science doesn't have to like sell us, right? So Bill has these wild ideas. His marketing tactics to use it, call it spiritual, not religious, is to try to it lowers the resistance for atheists, agnostics, trauma survivors, anybody who, and when I say trauma survivors, it could be any kind of trauma survivor, but specifically also if you had trauma with a religion, it's trying to open up the gates to make it accessible to more people by hiding what it actually is. It hides the religious content up front. You know, like a lot of cults do that, like, well, AA for sure is a bait and switch, right? You go there to get sober and then like, you got to get God. That's what they told me. I was like, I just want to get sober. They're like, you have to get a God. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? I didn't know that I was walking. Well, I kind of did know I was walking into a religion, but it's like the manipulation is intense, right? So they hide it up front. And over time, as we get further in, we start to convince ourselves that it's true. Like, I walked in to Alcoholics Anonymous knowing that it was a religious cult. I knew that when I walked in the front door, and it was so hard to walk in the door because I did not want to walk into a religious cult. Literally, the only reason why I went to AA the night I got out of rehab was because I spent so much money on rehab. I didn't want to walk into the bar instead. I was like, I have to go in here. I can't be a bad investment on night one. I can drink tomorrow. So like, what was my thinking? I'll go to the cult tonight. So I knew it was a religion. And then they just kept telling me, it's spiritual, not religious. It's spiritual, not religious. And we know that's how, like, cults use words to control us. They don't use guns. They don't use locks. Typically, they use words. The words are, it's spiritual, not religious. So, the theology, like the big book, is revered with By the time people realize that AA is God-based, they're already in early recovery, they're already socially bonded, they already have community and connection, they've already been love bombed, and then they're afraid to leave. They're already been told they have a disease and that they'll die if they leave. So by the time, yeah, it's like you've already bit the bait by the time, you're hooked by the time that you start to see it. And also, like, if it wasn't religious, why is there a disclaimer? We're not religious. Like, the bakery doesn't say we're not a religion. Burnie
Right.
and Bestie, we're not saying we're not a religion. Like, if you're not a
Right.
religion, you don't fucking say you're not a religion. Like, you're just not. Like, I'm not saying I'm not a ceiling. I'm not a chair. Like, what
Right.
the fuck?
Right. No, totally. Is there more that you're reading from?
Well, let's just open that question up. Why do we think they say it's spiritual, not religious? Like, what do we think that gaslight is about? My opinion is that's a gaslight. So do you think that's a gaslight? And why do you think they say that?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a gaslight, and I think that, I mean, I see it all the time when in my comments, I'll have people are like, they're like, I'm an atheist and it works for me because it's not a religious program. Like, it's like, and in my head, I'm like, I honestly feel sympathy for that person, because the amount of mental gymnastics that you had to do to make this make sense for you as someone who is atheist, it's sad because you think you didn't have any other option, right? So like, you to be an atheist and make it make sense to you, I think that's a talent. But yeah, I definitely agree that it's gaslighting, and it opens the door to more people, right? Like, it makes it seem more opening. And if you notice in the text, like, there's a few things that in the beginning, it sounds a little bit more like, earth, wind, whatever, and then it's like, once you get to step 3, it's very just about God with a capital G and him with a capital H. It's very bait and switch, even in the literature. So, yeah.
Totally. And Kate says, wait, Burnie and Bestie is not a religion? I'm out. 100%. When you were saying that, I just read this book this week. I spent a lot of time reading books this week, and I read The Real AA by Ken Raga, I think is his name. He talks about the minority of one is one of the strongest cult indoctrination techniques. So when you walk in as the newcomer and everybody is saying it's a spiritual, not religious, it's spiritual, not religious, and you say, I think this is a religion, and then they intentionally, what do? They tweak their shares to break you down so that you no longer believe that. So if you have 30 people in a room, or 20 or 50 or 500 or whatever, all saying, I thought it was a religion too, it's spiritual, then you're kind of like, there's this thing that happens in our brain. For the majority of the people, we conform to the norm because we don't want to stand out. And I think that goes back to our cave days when we needed to be a part of the tribe to literally survive. So we're wired to want to tend to conform. Not everybody, not every time. But if you walk into a room where everybody says like gravity's not real, eventually you're going to be like, gravity ain't a thing. Or you might just leave and be like, what a fucking cult.
Right.
Let's see. You want to take this one?
Sure. Well, 12-step programs did help me. It started to have the opposite effect, much like drugs and alcohol did. I try to help other people still. Since I have started working in harm reduction and actually helping them, my world has opened up significantly, and my eyes have been open to the issues with 12-step meetings. It's polarizing and can cause much more harm than good. Abstinence is not the only way to recover. Totally.
Yeah. And I just wish that it was honest. Like, you know what? For some people, joining a religious cult is beneficial. The indoctrination, the phobia indoctrination, where you're afraid, they do things where they make you afraid to leave. They make you feel so fucking loved, and you have a community wherever you go in the world. You can always tap into a community. There's a lot of pros to it. There's a lot of benefits. I had real benefits to AA. I liked the community everywhere. I like to travel. So it was fun. Like, there was benefits to it. So if they were just upfront and said, yeah, it's a religion. And actually a lot of people here what is the line in the big book? When hundreds of people say that the consciousness of the presence of God is the most important fact of their life, they present a powerful reason why one should have faith. That was like when I was a true believer, that was my favorite line in the big book. That I was never a big book thumper, but that was my line. I was like, yeah, I came in with no faith, and now faith is the most important thing to me. And now I'm like, what, yo? I was like religious. Whoa, they got me good. I got played. They got me good.
That's funny. It's true though, you know. It's true. Some good comments here. Pizza, trying to convince an atheist that it was spiritual, I realized it was a religion. The objections of the atheist were all true.
Yeah, so it's so weird because then you get all these like atheists or agnostics who then are convinced through the conformity and the indoctrination that it's spiritual, not religious. So they do the mental gymnastics on the tweaking it to like, well, it could be a doorknob. Really? You're going to turn your fucking life over to a doorknob? Yeah. Okay, so doorknob is going to like remove your character defects. Yeah, you got to really do some like weird stuff in your head for that to actually make sense. But they will say it can be a doorknob, right? Or a group of drunks or whatever. So then you get the atheists and the agnostics who get brainwashed into this spiritual, not religious thing. They actually believe it. And then when you walk in and you have these people who said, I was just like you, I thought that way too, now I think this way, and they mean it from the depth of their being, because for them it's true. Even though it's bananas, for them it's true. And so their belief is transmitted. The energy of these people who are so confident in like that gravity is not real, or like Santa is a vibe, Santa's legit, you know, and you're like, oh, I guess it is. Look, these people really mean it, and they're nice to me. They have coffee with me. They read the book to me.
Right. And you think that they're, especially in the beginning, you think they're such powerhouses and such powers of example, and like you just want some sort of sense of normalcy, and like the messaging has always been this is the spot to go. So then you get there and I'm like, you're like, well, if this is what I got to do, then this is what I got to do, you know.
Yeah, Sarah says the doorknob thing is like an insult, power greater than yourself. It's like a way for old timers to be cheeky, I think. I just realized this the other day, lol. Did we do this one from Jim yet? Jim says, kind of shoots itself in the foot by saying it's spiritual, and it happens by their own arguments, while sharing both arguments, spiritual and religious, still separates people, saying, yeah. And Jim says, for the 5th podcast, this is good, orderly direction. And we're going to have a spiritual experience up in here today, folks. Okay, so for the people who did not grow up with religion or are confused on religion, like me, people like me, and I love that we both have different backgrounds, right? I want to kind of give some of what I just kind of wanted to like get a definition of religion. For me, the way that I think about religion is it's a path to God. I just do that very simply. Religion's a path to God. Here's what Google AI said. I'm not saying Google AI is the God of definitions, if you will, but it is a higher power, right? It's an AI power. Okay. So Google AI says that religion is a broad system of cultural and social practices, check, beliefs, check, ethics, check, often centered around humanity's relationship with the divine, supernatural, spiritual, involving rituals, moral codes, moral inventories, sacred texts, the big book, and communal worship, the meetings, that shapes the worldview and behavior through though definitions widely vary. Yeah, shapes our behavior and our worldview for sure. It can seem as faith in God's, it can be seen as faith in God's or God, a framework for understanding life's meaning. Yes, fatal disease, right? Or a way of connecting to something sacred and transcendental. Oh, yeah, 11th step, right? Providing comfort, purpose, and community for its followers. Yeah, I mean, I have more things on what a religion is here, but for me, every aspect of when I look up like WTF is a religion, AA, I can find how AA fits every single thing that I pick up. Here's, I want to tell you a little bit about Bill's conversion story. So these are some of the highlights that come out of the big book about. So Ebby says, I've got religion. So that plants the seed for this solution to Ebby's sobriety and then later to Bill's sobriety, right? And then it says, God had done for him what he could not do for himself. I mean, how can a doorknob do that? You know what I mean? He had in effect been raised from the dead. So now we have a resurrection story with Ebby. Ebby's been in effect raised from the dead. I stood in the sunlight at last. Sunlight, we know what that is. It's the sunlight of the spirit, right? Thus I was convinced that God is concerned with us humans when we want him enough, and all the him, God's gendered, obviously. And because we had this one person in my meetings who was like, a goddess of my understanding, goddess. She would always do like she would gender God to female. I humbly offered myself to God. I placed myself unreservedly under his care and direction. Without him, I was lost. This is giving religion. Is anyone else getting religion here? I pray now that you remove from me every single defect of character. Grant me strength to do your bidding. Amen. So this is a full-on surrender. Bill's story is surrender. It has prayer, confession, divine authority, obedience. He's going to obey God. So it's, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I should have done a trigger warning. We have ew. Cassandra says, haha, the doorknob.
When someone, I forget who said, was it Sarah that said, like, I'm thinking about that, how like the doorknob, it kind of is insulting in a way, you know, like a
Yeah.
power greater than yourself. And then I remember some of the meetings that I belonged to, like you weren't allowed to have a doorknob. You know, you had to really like search and find, because they would say, you know, a doorknob isn't going to keep you sober. But like this is also a group that we literally all got on our hands and knees, those of us taking our third step at the same prayer, and read the third step out of the book, holding hands, like, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt, relieve me of the bondage of self. I forget the whole thing, but it's like, I mean, that very much gave me Catholic vibes when I was doing it. And I know that every meeting does it a little bit different. And we, you know, there's different like sects of AA for sure. But yeah, I mean, come on. Look, the prayers in the book are legit Christian prayers. And I mean,
Yeah. Sarah says, I love newcomers' faces when everyone holds hand and says the Lord's Prayer at the end of the meeting. Yeah, I know the Lord's Prayer because I went to a religion called Alcoholics Anonymous. Somebody left me a comment a couple days ago. They're like, oh, AA is a religion? What religion is it? I'm like, bro, that's like asking me what religion is Christianity. It's Christianity. So if you ask me what religion is AA, I'm like, it's fucking AA. Like that's what religion it is. Because they think that they're gonna, I imagine, either they're genuinely confused or they're being snarky and they're gonna say, no, it's not Christianity, it's not Buddhism, it's whatever you want. Yeah, that's what Bill's religion is. It's whatever you want. That's literally part of the doctrine. It's that you can pick your God. You know, like Hindus, like in Bali, so Indonesia is like 17,000 islands, right? They're all Muslim except one island, Bali. Bali is Hindu. And Hindu, they have like hundreds, if not thousands of gods. In, you know, some religions, they have one God, right? And God's son. In AA, it's whatever God you want. So AA is not a specific religion. It's you get to pick whatever God you want. And you can even pick an inanimate object. Yeah.
that's crazy that you learned the third step in AA. Like for me, like comparing it to someone who learned it in like third grade CCD, to realize that like people are learning the prayers in the rooms is kind of wild.
Yeah. So for all of us who didn't grow up with religion and never wanted religion, yeah, then we're having to say, give us our daily bread, and everyone's holding hands. So you know what I did my first year? I didn't want to hold hands and pray because I was like, fuck the religion, man. I just like, I don't know. I didn't know that there were smart meetings at that time. I was in San Francisco. There were smart meetings in San Francisco at that time. I was not clear on it. Like that I could go to a non-religion to like have support and to learn like coping skills, right? And so, yeah, I would go to every meeting 5 minutes late because I didn't want to be asked to read because I had a phobia of public speaking. So like I never would have done a video back then. I was terrified. I was like shaking and like so scared. So I didn't want to have to read the preamble and the religious material. And I left every meeting 5 minutes early because I didn't want to hold hands and do the Lord's Prayer. We did the Serenity Prayer, the Lord's Prayer, or what was the third one? There was 3 prayers that they picked from. Third step prayer, maybe. Yeah. Did anybody okay, so now let's talk about where did you do the third step prayer? My sponsor had me do it in Starbucks. How fucking humiliating. So I'm on my knees at my local Starbucks where I go all the time. You know, I'd bring my
No.
laptop there or a book there all the fucking time. So I'm at my third home, third space, Starbucks down the street on my fucking knees in a busy San Francisco Starbucks on Union Street, and I'm doing the third step prayer in fucking public on my knees with my hands like this. And you're telling me it's not a fucking religion. What the fuck? And you're telling me if I'm not willing to go to any lengths, I am going to die. I'm going to die if I don't get on my knees and humiliate myself. You call it humility, and I call it humiliation. I was humiliated. And so then when I was told that I need to do that with my recruits, I was a little kinder. Okay, fine. I'm going to like tweak this a little because I still want to follow the rules. I'm going for perfection for my progress. I'm trying to do it right. And I would take them to the beach. So in San Francisco, San Francisco is not known for the beaches because it's really cold. But so I would take them. There's like underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, there's like a beach down there. And so I'd go to Baker Beach and I would take them there and we'd kneel on the beach together and say the third step prayer at the ocean. And it's empty because it's usually so cold in San Francisco. So nobody's there. And we're just by ourselves with the ocean. And I would say the ocean's a power greater than yourself, right? Look at the waves. I heard that in AA meetings. And so that's what I would do. I never did the public humiliation, like get on your knees. Somebody did it on a bus, literally on a bus with their sponsor. And they had to get down in the middle aisle of the bus and do it.
Oh
So did
no.
you go through any of those humiliation
Oh
rituals?
no. Luckily, well, the very first time I did it, I was in a chapel in rehab with a bunch of other people who were, working the steps at the same time as me. Any other time that I did it, it was like at an AA meeting, like somewhere like off on the side, either before or after the meeting. And any time that I took someone through it, it was the same thing. It was never the humiliation thing, but I can like hear it now, like for people who would be embarrassed to do something like that. It'd be like, well, you're not willing then. This is a display of your willingness is for you to get on your knees wherever the fuck your sponsor wants you to do it. This
Yeah.
is you showing your willingness to, like, I can like hear it in my head.
You're
Oof.
being self-centered. Get out of self. Get out of
Yes,
self.
yes. Like this is
Abandon
yeah.
abandon yourself to your creator.
Oh, like literally, like I'm getting like shivery yuck.
Look, I'm not religious and have never been except for when I was coerced inside Alcoholics Anonymous religion. I have no problem with religion. And if people are religious, that's great. I don't really care what anybody else believes. I only know what like the only thing that I care about is not being coerced. I feel like it's really violent to coerce somebody into changing their belief system, their values, fundamentally like how they structure their life. I just find it's violent to convert people. I don't believe in conversion anymore. Sarah says, just look at the waves. Ha ha ha. Totally.
Kate said, my sponsor had me do it at her home. I asked if I could go smoke a cigarette after. It was so cringe, and I grew up going to church. Yeah, I grew up going to church too. Like my mom was a CCD teacher. I was an altar girl, and it definitely gave me all of the same vibes. But in some ways, it was kind of comforting because it was like the same type of messaging I had been hearing, but it was different, and it gave me like a little bit more hope versus like this, like if I would stub my toe, my mom would be like, see, God's punishing you for talking back to me. Like it wasn't that type of vibe, even though it really ended up kind of being that type of vibe by the end. So Jim said, don't worry, it's a spiritual bus, not a religious bus.
So funny. All right. Okay. So I want to do some more religious receipts. Receipts. Trigger warning. Trigger warning. I'm going to do some
Wow.
religious receipts. Receipts. I can't. Y'all, it is early up in here. I'm going to do some religious receipts from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better. That sounds pretty religious to me. When ready, we say something like this: my creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me. Okay. We ask God to remove every single defect of character. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. Thy will be done, not mine. Here's more self-abandonment, right? After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking. Here we ask God for inspiration. Usually we conclude this period of meditation with a prayer. And then my favorite, which I made a short video on a couple days ago, and like people got really offended by it. But it's like, no, what's offensive isn't me talking about the coerced conversion, religious conversion experience in AA. What's offensive, that's what's offensive. It's not offensive talking about it. It's what's actually happening is what's offensive, people. Our real purpose, this is page 77, our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God. So you're telling me that if I don't go to any lengths, half measures avail me nothing, that my purpose through your program is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God. How is that not religion? So by the time you get to the end of the first 164 pages of the big book, this is so funny. Sarah says, smoking right now, by the way. Yeah, I might start smoking again for this conversation because it's baloney. This is bullshittery. You got Bill Boozle in the house. Okay, so by the time you get to the end of the 164 pages of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the text has already established it is your authority. People say it's not a cult because there's no leader. I'm like, yo, the Big Book is the fucking leader these days. Are you kidding me? People are like, that's not in the book. That's not in the book. What? So you're going to turn your will and your life over to a book from the 1930s? Okay, good luck. Well, I did, so I'm not really. I'm laughing with you. I'm laughing at me, actually. Okay, so by the time you get to the end of the first 164 pages, you have now established a personal God, a living creator, prayer as a daily requirement, God's will replacing personal will. That's giving religion right there. Divine forgiveness, God removing moral defects, miracles, resurrection language. Remember, Ebby was raised from the dead. Salvation framing. Everyone's like, AA saved my life. I'm like, hello, that's religion. You were born again into Alcoholics Anonymous. Conversion testimonies, evangelism to newcomers, religion presented as the solution, not optional. Yeah, so AA is a religious conversion ritual. So you are broken, you are powerless, you need God. You surrender your will and your life to God. That's the conversion experience. You are converting to being God-controlled. The Oxford group called it God-controlled. You confess your sins or your resentments. You make amends. This is atonement, right? God removes your defects. This is a spiritual, religious purification. You testify publicly, like share in meetings and do the fifth step. And that's like the witnessing process, right? And you evangelize to others. That's the proselytizing, the mission work, otherwise known as the 12th step, H&I, or even the professional recruiters is what now I see it as the interventionalists. If you are an interventionalist or a therapist and you're sending somebody to 12 step, you are literally like a professional 12 step recruiter. Let's see. We got some laughs. Kate is noticing that Tara is grossed out.
Do you mind putting the one from Michael? It says in agnostics, they describe God as because I guess I should read it first. In the We Agnostics chapter, they describe God as an all-powerful, guiding, creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe, underlying the totality of things, a creator, a maker. And yeah, that's what I was trying to say earlier when I was like, there is a part in the book where like they make it seem it's like all this stuff, but where the hell else is it other than there, right? Then once you leave that section, it's all about him, he, like as God. It's like they give you a little bit to hook you, and then it goes back to the Christian God. It's just wild. Yeah, Sarah said I never like the take my will and my life part. Yeah, it's pretty like take my will and my life builds with me as though like relieve me of the bondage of self. Like what do you mean the bondage of myself? Like that's me.
Self-abandonment, self-betrayal coming through. This is a program of self-betrayal. They say abandon yourself to God. Yeah, betray yourself, abandon yourself. Michael says, I only saw the third step prayer at the spiritual theme meetings on Sunday at the local Catholic church. Totally not religious though. Yo, why are we in a church? Okay, so my grandparents, my dad's parents were religious. And so I did go to church maybe 3, maybe 5 times in my life when I was visiting them, and it was a Sunday or an Easter or something. But really, that was like I can count on one hand probably how many times I went to church until I got to AA. And then I was in a church, my home group was in a church basement. I was in a church it was 8 a.m. on Saturday mornings. It was called Too Early. That was my home group, the church basement. Let's see.
The names of the groups always crack me up.
It was kind of early.
In the 12 and 12, they say atheists are belligerent and a state of mind which can only be described as savage. Of course they fucking do.
Sarah says, holy shit, I'm glad I got indoctrinated into the NA book instead of the AA book. The AA book is a trip. What a wild fucking book, man. 100%. Kate says, We the Agnostics is a masterpiece of gaslighting.
Totally.
Yeah, it's 100% religious. It checks all the boxes. And then to have to be told by everybody. They've done experiments on this, like psychological experiments on this, where people are all in a room and one person doesn't know that everybody else is in on it, but everybody else is going to say, like, where they compare 3 different lines, right? And the lines are 3 different lengths. So there's a long, a medium, and a short. So they put up a 4th line, and you have to say which one of these 3 is the same as this one over here. And at first they all say the right one, the right one, the right one. And then there's 6 people in a row, and the 5th person actually is what the experiment is being done on. Everybody else is like staged. They're paid. They're part of the experiment. So then if the one they put up is like the medium sized line, now the first person says it's the small line. It's number 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. By the time they get to the 5th person who's like, wait, everybody just said it's number 1. I can see with my own eyes that it's number 2. And then I think it was something like 70% of the time they conformed to what everybody else said. They gave it like a weird face. They show the video of it and they're like looking uncomfortable. So they would rather conform to the group. There's so many experiments like this where people will conform, most likely, like more than half of the time, half of the people, they will conform to the group average and abandon the reality that they're seeing with their own eyes. That's this, like, it's spiritual, not religious. So I don't know. I guess there could be as many definitions of spirituality as there are individuals. So that's why I didn't define spirituality. For me, spirituality is of the spirit. Like intellect is of the mind. That's kind of how I feel like it's of the spirit. So anything that's like of my spirit. So if I'm even if I'm thinking about my ancestors, spirits that are, people that are no longer alive, to me, that's all the spiritual realm. But I'm sure everybody here is going to have a different definition. So I didn't even, when I defined religion, it was like for myself and anybody else who didn't grow up. So we kind of have a framework of what we're talking about. But spirituality to me doesn't involve confession. It doesn't involve atonement. It doesn't involve turning my will and my life over. It doesn't.
Yeah, I think I've been so gaslit by the word spirituality. Like I just put it with, I still feel like when somebody says like, oh, I'm spiritual, in my back of my head, I'm like, so you're religious, you just, even though that's not necessarily true, but I think I've just been, from being in the rooms and like hearing that word used interchangeably with the religion of 12-step, that to me, the word itself is the same as religion, even though I know it's technically not. Sarah said, it can be a doorknob if you're too basic to understand spirit of the universe. That's funny.
Craig says, can you share some of your personal experiences of betrayal and financial or emotional abuse from other people in the program? The first thing that came to my mind that kind of aligns with this topic is that when I was like maybe almost 2 years sober, year and a half sober, I was dating this guy and we broke up. And I also got fired. And also my best friend who I was from drinking was in AA, and I just sponsored her for 6 months and she got drunk. It was all in the same day. It was like I lost my relationship, my job, and my best friend is what it felt like. And I called my sponsor to tell her. And I was like, I was so upset. And she just, without skipping a beat, she said to me, God cleared your schedule. What are you going to do? Stay grateful. God has a plan for you. And she just went straight into spiritual bypassing. And so when I read this emotional abuse, to me, that's emotional abuse. It's that no matter, and it completely shaped my thinking of like, I'm not allowed to feel my feelings and be how I am. I have to like believe that no matter what, God's doing this. And maybe if you choose that, that's fine. But she literally conditioned me. That's why I feel like sponsors are like the cult leaders, right? Because she literally reformed my thoughts so that I would go straight to God instead of just be a human and have a feeling and just have a fucking cry. Like, if you care about me, can we just cry for a minute? Like, can I cry for 5 minutes with you and tell you how much this sucks? Why does it have to be that I have to be grateful that God cleared my schedule? So for me, when I read emotional abuse, I'm thinking about it in the context of like being coerced to have this, God controlled life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like for me, just there's it's like such a big, there's so many years and like so many things that I could think of. But I think for me, like just the biggest one, I think, was when there would be different job opportunities that, they would tell me or tell others. This isn't just necessarily just me, but that we need like a get well job and that we should be happy in the sober house. And I remember me and my friend Sam, who's not alive anymore, we were like getting ready to move out, and they're like, why are you doing that? You need to stay in this. So like, I felt like they really just tried to keep us really small, and that doesn't really feel like betrayal, so to speak, but like in sense of financial, I just felt like they never wanted me to make any like positive moves, to where if my schedule, maybe I'd be making a little bit more money and maybe go to a one or two less meetings. And then again, with the emotional abuse, I mean, it's like you said, you can never be anything but grateful. If you are or at least this was my experience, if I was to show any other emotion other than grateful, no matter how fucking rotten the experience, then there was something wrong with me and something I needed to look at. Like sometimes, like 100%, like we can have a part in a lot of things that when we're upset, we don't see. But sometimes people are just shitty to you, and there's nothing that you did to deserve that. But everything is always about finding your part, and never being anything but grateful. But I'm sure if I like sat and thought about it, I could think of like some real specific instances.
Cassandra says, I hated church meetings. I can't stand voting polls in churches either. Kate says 12 and 12 also talks about the 7 deadly sins. Totally. Cassandra says NA isn't different.
Yeah, I agree.
Kings Mason says there is no we, and I am no agnostic. Totally. Sarah says, yes, I don't even call myself a spiritual person anymore. I'm just like a person of the earth. Well,
same.
Yeah, because of all the like coercion, it's like, yeah, a lot of us don't want to go there. It's like a PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Kings Mason says the doorknob is a non-consensual throat lozenge. You know what is okay? I have a really funny fucking doorknob of my understanding story, actually. So I went to the Friday night meeting. It's a long time ago. And I came home and I didn't have my keys to my apartment. Is that it? No. My front door, I got into the front door at the bottom, and then my apartment was on the top floor. So then I walked up all the stairs, and then I'm at the front door to my apartment, and my lock wasn't working. And so I was trying to get in, and I had just been to this meeting, and the meeting was all about like, doorknob kind of stuff. And so then I like, or God, praying. not specifically doorknob, but praying. And I couldn't get into the door. And I was like, fuck. And my roommate was out of town. So I was like, if I don't get in, I have to sleep on the ground or like figure out where I'm going to go sleep right now. Like, this is annoying. And my home group was Saturday morning at 2 early. So I needed a good night of sleep before I went back to the church basement.
Right.
The Friday night meeting was in a church as well, but there was like in a building on the church campus, not in a basement. It was like its own little, it was like a Sunday school building, I think. I don't know. I don't know how the church stuff works, but I just know I went all the time for AA. So I was like, what if I pray like God could, and what if he were sought, right? So I literally get on my hands and my knees and I put my hands on my forehead like we do sometimes in yoga. And I was like, God, please open my door. I really want to go to bed. I'm so fucking tired. Please, higher power, let me in, let me in. And then from my knees down there, I put the key in and it unlocked. I was like, oh my God. I prayed to a doorknob and the door fucking opened. And I had a white light experience.
Yeah.
Not really. What I realized is at the angle when I was on my knees, my hand was going straight into the lock versus being up. And so the angle was different. And I got we had to get the doorknob fixed. The doorknob was a problem. But I was like, oh my God, I literally prayed to a doorknob. And you know how God can give you a parking space. God opened my door. God opens the doors. I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody who is religious, but like that was I literally prayed to, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was literally praying right at a doorknob.
Yeah.
I'm dead. Let's see. Sarah, yeah, it's funny. I'm like tearing up. Blue Butterfly says they never validate feelings unless it's gratitude. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's it. Gratitude. Like it's like feelings. You learn that like feelings are bad. Like you can never be. It's almost like you learn to be a robot, right? Like you can't be too happy. You can't be too sad. Like you just gotta be like in this bubble of gratitude. It's like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Lavender says it's not religious, then they pass the basket like it's a church. But yeah, totally not religious. Why does the doorknob need my dollar? Gotta keep the lights on, baby.
100%. Oh wait, I thought I clicked a new one.
I hate the crap. How big a cult is AA? If you're super vulnerable, it's a profound cult. Yeah, and you have no idea what you're walking into. You think you're walking into a self-help group, right? Like it's just the vulnerable part is what is just like the whole thing just, it's like these people walk in there and they whether they've been told from this person, that person, like the messaging has always been like, go to a meeting, you go to a meeting, and then it actually turns out, and I don't really use the word cult a whole lot, but I mean, I know that it is a cult, and it's like you get there and then you get indoctrinated into a whole ass fucking cult. Like, and like you said, like you just want to stop drinking. Like I just wanted to stop shooting dope. I didn't want all of this shit,
100%. And I think it's important. It was important for me in my deconstruction journey to recognize that it's a cult, because then I can look at cult recovery steps as a map out of what is actually still happening in my life. It was very validating, very liberating. I don't care what the fuck we call anything. I want freedom. And so I'll but the clarity on what actually happened helps me to seeing how my mind got locked helps to see how I can unlock my mind.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sarah says it's because God is within you, and that's why he allowed you to move your body like that to unlock the door. 100%. Yeah.
Because you were spiritually fit.
Yeah.
Talk heathen. I heard them talking about that hit and misses when it comes to prayer, working, only counting ones that seem to work. Well, right. It's like everything good that happens in your life is because of AA, and then everything bad in your life is because you're a piece of shit,
Totally. I was recording a podcast yesterday with somebody, and a line that we said was, my worst day after leaving AA is better than my best day in AA.
It's so true, though. It's so true.
Oh my God.
So
I gotta flip everything on its head.
Yeah.
Did we do this one yet? Kate says, I think whoever walks into AA for the first time is pretty vulnerable. That's why the indoctrination works. Yeah. you get people who are at like very receptive, right?
Mhm.
Most of us get into AA when we're young and in need of community. 100% blue butterfly.
Totally.
Sarah says, I remember a lot of people in our local groups gravitated to pyramid schemes too. Yeah, I had people in AA try to, they were big in Al-Anon too in Bali. It was so funny. Like everybody in Al-Anon in Bali, which I only went to Al-Anon like a handful of times. But it was like all the Al-Anon, and it was like all women, except one guy, I think. And they were all like in a pyramid scheme. And like you're supposed to pay $5,000 and then you can get in and you're at the entry level. And then once you move up to the third or the fourth level, then you get 40 grand or 80 grand or whatever the hell it was. And I was just like, what the fuck? No, I'm not doing the Al-Anon pyramid scam. No. You know what? I studied math. I know how math works. This is not work. The math isn't mathing, people. Then what about the newcomers who are never going to get their money, and you get the old timer who runs away with all the fucking cash? This is just a scam.
Yeah, sounds like it. What the fuck? King Mob said, after so much gaslighting and gang stalking, I was losing my mind. So grateful I don't go anymore. Cult. Oof. Yeah.
Cassandra says, you guys ever heard of spiritual dollars in your spiritual bank account?
Yes.
What did you hear?
It was about the spiritual dollars in your, like, you're spiritually bankrupt.
Oh,
I forget. Yeah, I forget exactly like the line, but yeah, it was
you don't, when you have a spiritual malady, you cannot afford to be spiritually bankrupt.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah,
that's a slip. That is sobriety losing its priority, people. It's a spiritually slippery slope. Okay.
I heard a member say, if you're not working on a fourth, then you're working on a fifth. Oh, I get it. LOL, the assumptions are crazy. Absolutely. If you're not doing the work, then it is, or the work, excuse me, then it's assumed that you're already using or you're on your way to using, right? And to add to that, it's also assumed that if you are partaking, that it's obviously 100% negative and that there's nothing positive that can come from it, and that you have, it's like that whole, once you put something in your body, you have no control. And it's just assumed that if you are one of us, then you can't have any control. Once you put, like, there's so many assumptions that are made in that, like, well, you're either a real alcoholic or not, you know? I hate that shit. I hate the real alcoholic, because that's what people always say to me, that like, well, you must not have been a real addict then, because I smoke, you know, I use cannabis. So they're always convinced that I'm like, dude, I used to shoot heroin. Like, I mean, like, like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah. It just keeps the system closed. Yeah. So I'm curious, for anybody who is watching the replay or is with us live, where did you do your third step? Did you do it in public? Like I was coerced to do it into Starbucks, and felt like I didn't have a choice with a lot of the things that I was doing. I felt like I had to do them. That whole rarely have we seen a person fail, half measures, all of the indoctrination. I felt like, and I was told, are you willing to go to any lengths? You have to, I won't work with you unless you'll go to any lengths. You have to do what I say. And I'm like, this is so fucking lot, man. So let us know in the comments where you did your third step, or what it was like were you told it's spiritual, not religious? What was that like? Were you coerced into being in Bill's religion? Do you consider Alcoholics Anonymous a religion? And I guess the question I want to ask everybody who's vibing here right now is, how is it helpful to understand AA as a religion if you do? For me, it's really helpful to see it for what it is. It helps me deconstruct. It gives me the frameworks. When I match it up, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's confession, there's evangelism, there's miracles, there's God, replacing God controlling my life. So to me, I'm like, oh, it's 100% religion. And it helps me to reclaim my critical thinking and to rewire that part of my brain that's like praying about it. Like I prayed about it like for a decade. So I'm trying to like reel that in so I can make my own decisions, trust myself, that I don't need to outsource my agency to anyone, really.
Yeah. Sarah said, I'm glad I got out of NA 10 years ago, but I got sucked into the online meeting again. At least there's a built in boundary, but not great for me mentally. Understandable. I think it's hard to go back sometimes. Blue Butterfly said, I did the third step and seventh step prayer after the meeting behind the coffee table. Yeah, I did a lot of mine in the meetings, like before, after as well. I couldn't imagine doing it at a Starbucks or on a bus like you were talking about, Kirsten.
It's brutal to force people to get on their knees in public and fucking pray. Like, what are we doing? What? Or I'm going to die if I don't get on my knees and surrender my will in my life. I'm going to die. Now, God, take all of me. Like, what the fuckery is happening at the local Starbucks? I just don't want to die. And you're telling me I have to do this?
Yeah.
Oh, it is so manipulative.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah.
Kate says it's almost like they're using the real alcoholic. That's like a cool thing. Like, I'm better than you because I'm a real alcoholic. Totally. That's one of the things that, like, I didn't like. I think it's so important to, well, I think it's important to deprogram the idea of superiority, the false idea that some people are better than other people's, the supremacy thing, that if you're in AA, you are better than the normies, or you're better than the people who relapsed, or you're better than anyone, the whole status thing. There's so much like superiority in there, or I'm with God, or my AA group is the better AA group, or the way that we do the steps is the better way. There's just so much superiority inherent in AA. And I would say that part of it is in the doctrine, but it's in the culture too, that like, we're better, we're the cool kids, we're doing it right, we do sobriety right, we do, or even the cults within the cults, that we do it better than the other groups of AA.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes I go back and forth with it because it's like, you know what? Like sometimes I get offended by it, right? But then other times it's like maybe I wasn't a quote unquote real addict. Maybe I was just someone who was going through a hard time, but then I got indoctrinated to believe I was this person. And then maybe it kept me out there so much longer. Like, who knows? Maybe you're right. Maybe, but regardless if I was a real addict or not, I still had the same destiny and the same route because I believed that I was, because of the culture that I was in, you know?
Yeah. Cassandra says, I had a sponsor who told me to trust myself. Rare, I know, but I trusted myself right out the program. Love that. Yeah, we're going to have individual experiences. There's the ideology, like the doctrine, the big book, teaches us to not trust ourselves.
Yes.
We got to trust God. We got to become God reliant, get out of self, abandon self. But the individual experiences are obviously going to vary. And some groups are a lot more culty or controlling than others. 100%. Kate, for me, finding out it's a religion is key to my freedom. I left the Catholic Church, so why would I want to join another religion? Totally.
Bob said, how about the guys with 25, 30, 40 plus years who don't recognize the different levels or severities of alcoholism or mental illness? They don't listen, self-pity, get over it, arrogant, prideful. Yeah, there's a whole lot of not understanding because to them, or at least in my experience, the meetings that I went to, your problem was your ism, right? Like, was your alcoholism, was your, and it's like, well, of course you think you're bipolar, you know, you're an alcoholic, like any sort of mental, mental illness or whatever that people would on a rare occasion share about, it would get bashed down that like, no, you're just misdiagnosed. Your only problem is that you are a alcoholic or an addict.
Yeah. Kang Mob says the binary idea of you're either in meetings or you're out. Complete bullshit. Totally. The false dichotomy. Was it like the false dichotomy? Yeah. And then Kings Mason says the circular reasoning leads to circular reasoning. I think this is about the real alcoholic thing. You were never a real alcoholic, which is useful for the person with nothing to do and nowhere else to go. Clean those ashtrays, kids. Totally. And Sarah says, yeah, I laughed when one woman in the same online meeting was lashing out at everyone and said, none of you have lives I actually want. I don't look up to any of you. That's how I felt at the end. I was like, you know, I mean, I was on an island with a very small fellowship, and there was only 2 women that had more sobriety time than me, and I always thought your sponsor had to have more sober time than you. And I was like, literally, there's nobody here who has what I can't find anybody who has what I want. And I think that that just speaks also to that it's time to evolve. Like if there's no role model where you're at, maybe it's just time to move on.
Yeah. Riley said, I hated the feeling I had to expose everything about my life in order to get past it.
Confession,
Mhm.
coerced confession. Yeah. Blue Butterfly says black and white thinking is very dangerous. 100% agree.
Totally.
And it keeps us trapped. It keeps us like, you know, stuck on stupid, basically. If we're stuck in this, like our idea is right. And I feel like that's like one of the things that I see so much now as somebody who's like allergic to groupthink as much as possibly I can. How many people just will say, and it's a lot of the people who are defending AA were never even in AA. They were just indoctrinated into AA through society. And they'll just say things that don't even make sense. And I'm like, God, it seems like a lot of people like aren't even really thinking for themselves. I was like, well, you know, one of those, but for the grace of God, there go I things, because that's actually how I was for the 10 years that I was in AA. And I just want to keep waking up to more critical thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Critical. There's so much that exists. It's like in that world, you're either a quote unquote alcoholic, you're in recovery, or like that, like that's it, right? You're either like, once you have that disease, then you're either working your recovery or working your quote unquote relapse, right? Like there's no,
Yeah.
it is all or nothing. There is nothing to them that exists in the middle. Meanwhile, majority of people do exist in the middle. So it's like, what the fuck?
So I have a question for everybody watching live or watching the replay. What topic would you like us to kick off in future Burnie and Bestie episodes? I'm kind of vibing the topic vibe so we can kind of go deep, and we can go wherever the comments go, but to go deep on a topic and unpack it. And maybe even if I'm not familiar, you know, prepare it like I prepared my little religious notes over here today. So let us know in the comments what topics you would like us to spark conversations of in these episodes, and that you would like to either contribute to, learn more about, or you have something to share on. So I'm open for suggestions. So much of it is so yeah, so feel free to drop it in the comments what you would like future jam sessions to be on.
Jam out.
Cassandra says more about harm reduction. And Burnie, you need to burn off, right? You're going somewhere. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'm going out to Worcester to the Summit Lounge, which the Summit Lounge is actually a club that's a cannabis club that you can like smoke and stuff out, but they're having a Christmas party for the Mass Can. It's a cannabis activist organization here, but I'm tabling for a little while, just handing out Narcan and fentanyl test strips because it's the holiday season. You know, people party more, people get depressed more. You know, it's all like a whole bunch of the all good, all bad. There's all of it in between. So that's what I'm going to do at the Christmas party, the cannabis Christmas party, my kind of party. But I hope that you guys have a wonderful week, and I will catch everybody later.
And
Bob.
Bob says, you help me feel like I'm not insane. 100%. That's the AA indoctrination. Bill goes hard into that we're insane if we don't agree with him. Can you imagine if a rando on the street was like, you need to join my cult religion, otherwise you're going to die, go insane, or get locked up? So the conditioning is that we're insane. It's a gaslight fuckery. So yeah, I would love to continue to unpack a lot of the gaslighting in here, but the insanity is bullshit, and it's bullshit. It's part of the indoctrination. We're made to feel like we're going to go insane. And it is the biggest mindfuck of my life was leaving AA. I did also wonder, like, am I crazy? Why does everybody say that it's good? And that's part of my motivation to show up here and to kick off these conversations with Burnie and with you guys in the comments with everybody, is that like we can feel like we're going nuts. It's a mind fuck to leave, especially with the world not validating for us that, yeah, it's a harmful group that we're leaving. So I totally agree. So I'm going to come back and read the comments and see what you guys, well, Kate says, have fun.
Thank you.
And Sarah says, thank you. So I'll come back and see what topic you guys left in the comments once this uploads to YouTube. Have a great day out there. Yeah, we're definitely open to topics. So let us know how we can support you, vibe with you, what would be fun to explore, and whether we need to research for it or not, or just share our experience, strength, and
Go smoke.
when in doubt, get on your knees and ask the doorknob for what you want. You may just be surprised.
I'm gonna go smoke a joint now.
Cassandra says, I love that you call her Burnie. You know what? I can't help it. I like make-up nicknames. I don't know what it is. Like, can I blame it on autism? Like, it's just the way my brain is. I'm always like, I always just like, I don't know. I just kind of, nicknames are so cute and fun. I don't know. And I was like, can we be Burnie and Bestie? Is that too weird? I was like, I don't want to make you like rhyme with Bestie, but like, I kind of really like Burnie.
Yeah, I like it too. I like it. As long as people spell it the right way. The B-U-R.
We went back and forth on the Burnie for a while. We're like, are you really going to be Burnie?
Yeah. I still want people to spell it like weekend at Bernie's.
This is welcome to a weekend with Burnie. Well, Sundays, it is weekend with Burnie.
True. That is true.
And Burnie needs to get off to her weekend. Yeah. Thank you for your service. That's great that you're doing that.
Well, thank you guys. And I will catch you later.
Namaste, friends. See you. Oh, I'll see you, by the way, on Thursday. I have the next live stream for me on my channel. If you're on Sobriety Bestie YouTube, on Thursday, it is tea with Bestie. So you are invited to come and vibe. All right. Bye, guys. Take care.